A woman you've watched grow up on your screen for nearly 3 decades, a mother, a daughter, a friend to half of Weatherfield, standing on a dark, windswept scaffolding platform in the dead of night, with a man twice her size backing her into a corner and warning her that whatever he did to the person she loves, he can do to her too. No police. No witnesses. No way down. That is the nightmare Sarah Platt found herself trapped in on Coronation Street, and it is a nightmare that has completely reshaped the cobbles. If you have been wondering why Sarah has looked like a woman carrying the weight of the world these past few weeks, why Kit Green has been acting strangely secretive, and why the Platt and Windass families suddenly can't stand the sight of each other, you are about to get the full story, because Coronation Street has just confirmed exactly how far Sarah was pushed, what she did about it, and what happens to her now. For months, Corrie fans have been gripped by one of the darkest mysteries the show has ever attempted. Back in the spring, producer Kate Brooks and her team unveiled a bold flash-forward storyline, opening with a Weatherfield resident being quizzed by police over a dead body, long before viewers were told who that body actually belonged to or who put them in the ground. 5 potential victims were dangled in front of the audience. Theories exploded across social media, and for weeks it felt like almost anyone on the street could be the one who ends up in a coffin. As the weeks rolled on, though, it became painfully clear who the production team was building toward. The victim was Theo Silverton, and to understand why Sarah ended up in that impossible position on the scaffolding, you need to understand exactly what kind of man Theo really was. For newer viewers, or anyone who has not caught every episode, here is the background. Theo Silverton arrived in Weatherfield as a scaffolder who seemed, on the surface, charming, easygoing, and completely smitten with Todd Grimshaw. The two got engaged, and for a while it looked like a genuine soap opera fairy tale. But behind closed doors, Theo was something far more sinister. Over the course of the storyline, viewers watched him isolate Todd from his friends, manipulate and control him, and grow increasingly volatile and frightening whenever he felt threatened or exposed. It was a coercive control and domestic abuse plot that Coronation Street developed carefully, working alongside the LGBTQ+ anti-abuse charity Gallup, and it struck a chord with audiences precisely because Theo did not look like the villain everyone expected. He looked like a nice guy. That is what made him so dangerous, and it is what made the people around Todd, especially Sarah, so determined to expose him. Sarah, played by Tina O'Brien since 1999, has never been a passive character. Across the years, she has weathered a serial killer stepfather, a grooming scandal involving her daughter Bethany, a chaotic affair, and endless family drama, and through all of it, she has developed a reputation as someone who will absolutely take matters into her own hands when she feels the people she loves are in danger. That instinct kicked into overdrive once suspicions about Theo's abuse of Todd began to surface. Sarah was one of the first to be told George Shuttleworth's fears about what was happening behind closed doors at the Grimshaw-Silverton flat, and from that point on she threw herself into trying to protect Todd, digging for evidence, confronting Theo's ex-wife Danielle for information about his history, and even attempting to plant evidence in a desperate bid to get him caught. Gary Windass, once close to Theo, was pulled into the fight too, sacking him from the builder's yard and warning him to watch his back the moment the truth came out. As Theo's mask slipped further and further, and as Todd's ordeal escalated toward a terrifying, bloodied escape and a formal police statement, the tension across the cobbles built to breaking point. And then came the night everything changed. In scenes that finally answered the show's long-running whodunit, viewers learned that after Todd went missing and Sarah feared the worst, she went looking for him and ended up face-to-face with Theo alone on a builder's scaffolding rig. What followed was one of the most harrowing sequences Coronation Street has aired in years. Theo, cornered and exposed, made chilling threats towards Sarah, all but confirming that he had already hurt Todd and warning her that he was capable of doing the same to her. As he advanced on her with nowhere for Sarah to run, she grabbed a metal pole in what she has since described as a moment of pure panic and self-preservation and struck him. Theo went over the scaffolding railing and fell to his death. It was Sarah, not any of the 6 suspects fans had spent weeks theorizing about, who turned out to be Theo's killer, and in a chilling twist it was her ex-partner Gary Windass who she called on to help her cover up what had happened. The reveal landed like a bombshell. For weeks, fans had been building elaborate theories pointing toward Carl Webster, whose long list of enemies made him an obvious suspect, or toward Theo himself meeting a fitting end at the hands of someone avenging Todd, or even toward Kit Green, whose murky past as a corrupt police officer made him a constant wild card. Nobody had Sarah on their suspect list at all, and that is exactly the reaction that flooded social media the moment the truth came out. Plenty of fans admitted they were completely blindsided and thrilled by the twist, praising the show for pulling off a genuine surprise in an era where soap mysteries are often guessed weeks in advance. But there was also a very vocal wave of disappointment. Viewers took to social media to argue that the reveal felt like an anticlimax, with some saying they wanted the killer to be someone with clearer motive and history, like Gary himself, or Theo's own wife Danielle, and others pointing out that Sarah had never even been floated as one of the official suspects, making the twist feel, to some fans, like it came out of nowhere rather than being properly built toward. Whatever side of that debate you land on, one thing is certain: Sarah Platt is now, officially, a Weatherfield killer, and the story is far from over. That is where the very latest developments come in, and this is the part that is dominating Corrie headlines right now. In the aftermath of the reveal, Sarah's world has completely unraveled. Kit Green, her boyfriend and a serving police officer, found out the truth and has been walking an impossible tightrope ever since, torn between his duty to the law and his desperate desire to protect the woman he loves. Rather than turning a blind eye, Kit encouraged Sarah to come clean, believing that if she told the truth about how Theo cornered and threatened her, the courts would see it for what it was, a case of self-defense. But Kit's plan came with a darker complication. He has also been steering Sarah toward placing much of the blame for the cover-up onto Gary Windass, the man she turned to in her most desperate hour, hoping that shifting responsibility could help lessen her own sentence. Sarah has since been arrested and formally charged with Theo's murder, and she is now in prison awaiting trial, with Kit continuing to build a case against Gary behind the scenes, right down to tracking his movements and hunting for the metal pipe used in the killing on nearby waste ground. Understandably, this has torn 2 of the street's closest families apart. Maria Connor, married to Gary, has been left horrified at the thought of her husband taking the fall for a crime he did not commit, and as evidence starts to surface that pokes holes in Gary's account of that night, Maria has found herself turning her anger not just on Sarah, but on the wider Platt family, sparking a full-blown feud between the Windasses and the Platts. Bethany Platt, meanwhile, has been caught in an agonizing position, fully aware of what Kit is planning and deeply uncomfortable with the idea of pinning the blame on Gary, even as Kit reminds her that her own young half-brother Harry desperately needs his mother back home. It is messy, it is emotional, and it is exactly the kind of moral tangle that makes Coronation Street's best storylines so compelling. And now, as of the past couple of weeks, the story has physically moved into the courtroom. Coronation Street's production team has been spotted filming extensively on location in Bolton, recreating a courthouse for Sarah's upcoming murder trial, with cast members including Allison King as Carla, Vicky Myers as Lisa Connor Swain, Jack P. Shepard as David Platt, along with Julia Golding's Shona and Lucy Fallon's Bethany, all pictured on set. It is a clear sign that the trial storyline is being treated as a major event for the show, likely to play out across multiple episodes in the coming weeks. Speaking about where this leaves her character, Tina O'Brien has been candid about just how frightening prison could be for someone like Sarah. She has said she would be genuinely worried for Sarah behind bars, explaining that Sarah could come across as an easy target to hardened criminals and that the danger would only increase if other inmates discovered her partner was a serving police officer. O'Brien also touched on the guilt eating away at Sarah over dragging Gary into her mess, describing her character as feeling that the entire fallout, including the danger now facing Gary and his marriage, is entirely her fault. So, What does all of this mean for the future of Coronation Street? For one thing, it sets up what could be one of the most significant courtroom storylines the show has produced in years, with Sarah's freedom, her relationship with Kit, her role as a mother to Harry and Bethany, and her entire future on the cobbles all hanging in the balance. There is also the small matter of Kit Green's own conduct as a police officer coming under suspicion, with colleagues at the station already questioning whether he helped cover up a murder, a thread that could easily spiral into its own explosive storyline about corruption within the Weatherfield police force. Fans are now speculating wildly about how the trial will play out. Will the jury believe Sarah's account of self-defense, or will Theo's manipulative reputation not be enough to save her from a guilty verdict? Will Gary end up wrongly convicted in her place, shattering his marriage to Maria and his relationship with the wider Windass family for good? Or will the truth about Kit's involvement in steering the investigation eventually come out, costing him his badge, his freedom, or both? There is also growing chatter among viewers about whether this storyline is being used to set up a major departure, with some fans wondering aloud whether this is the beginning of the end for Sarah Platt on the cobbles after all these years, while others believe the show will find a way to bring her home to her family, scarred but free. What we do know for certain is that Coronation Street has delivered one of its boldest and most talked about storylines in recent memory. A beloved, long-running character has been transformed into a killer, not through malice, but through sheer terror and desperation in a moment where she genuinely believed her life was in danger. The show has managed to spark furious debate among its fanbase, generate headline after headline in the British press, and set up a courtroom showdown that promises to be one of the most emotionally charged events of the year. Whether you think Sarah deserved to be the one wielding that pole on the scaffolding, or whether you are still holding out hope that this was all some elaborate frame-up waiting to be unraveled, there is no denying that Weatherfield has rarely felt more dangerous or more dramatic. That is everything we know so far about Sarah Platt's terrifying spiral from devoted mother to convicted killer's doc, and with the trial storyline only just beginning to unfold on screen, this is far from the last twist Coronation Street has in store. We want to know what you think. Do you believe Sarah deserves to walk free after what Theo put her through, or should she pay the price for taking a life, even in self-defense? And more importantly, is Gary Windass about to pay for a crime he did not commit? Drop your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. Give this video a like if you enjoyed catching up on all the latest Corrie drama, and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a single twist from Weatherfield. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.